So, hello, this is a video about some of the latest thinking that myself and a few colleagues of a stage that we've got to around how we're going to use VLE Moodle learning space to teach next year in a blended learning way. So some of this insight is really updates on the way that reflections on the way that we've been using learning space for the past few years, and improvements on the idea that it's become a bit of a dump, a depository. So if we think that the central unit, an important unit of a module is the lecture or a week where there's a lecture and a practical, the learning space is a brilliant place for posting resources which are referred to in those lectures. Whereas if we're going to have a more blended learning approach and wrap around the lectures with more content, which has always been there, but which is making it more integral, important part of the block, then we think we need to look at learning space again. So you might have already seen a video about using collapsed topics and thinking about the way the top page is set up. This is going to try and be a quick video about how we've sort of landed on the book feature and how we can make learning objects inside learning space. So this is not a collapsed page, but what you can see here is an approach to the minimum content which would be shown on the top page in the collapsed element of Moodle. The starting point for us was to just have one link, but you'll see as I take you through this next few minutes that there is a benefit in having two links. Now I could hide this second link, and I'll come back to this shortly once I've shown you what the main link is. So this is the week's block. There's a description of content at the top, a brief introduction, and then this is the book feature in Moodle. Now the book is a series of pages. There is an option to have a page, which is one page, but what we tend to find with that is that we get the scroll of death, where no matter how organized we are, there's going to be more than one screen, more than two screens sometimes of content. So a book allows the content to be chunked into smaller, more digestible elements. There's also a lesson feature, which we think is a little bit too complicated in terms of the options and directions. So the book is a really good place to land. So this is what you can see in front of you, a book. So what you can see in front is a table of contents on the right. I've also chosen the options which give us navigation explanations. You can just have an arrow if you want. And this one takes away from the chapter headings, which are on the top. And these are known as the chapters, which are effectively pages really within Learning Space. So what I think I'm going to do next year is have a title page on these books, and so whilst I've got a jazzy GIF in the top there, I'm more than likely what I want is I want a video of myself talking to introduce the block. So this would not be a screencast necessarily. This would be a recorded video on my PC and my laptop, really easy to do, and that would just be a spoken word to the students explaining what the aims of this block are, what they should look out for. Not necessarily solid content, but just a welcome. I've then got the aims and outcomes for the block. And then I started off with content for this block in terms of what's online, but what I want to do is I want to integrate the practicals into this and make it feel like this is everything. This is a kind of multimedia, multi-dimensional thing that contains lots of learning. So what I've got for activities for this week is I've got reviewed the prepared content in this guided learning block. I've got reference to the tasks which need to be done. So I think it's really important to build in tasks, not just reading and listening. And that draws attention to it. And I've also got attend the practical session, and I might have a fixed time, or I might be a bit more general, but I'm going to include it there, and then also go online for a tutorial. So what I'm trying to do is draw these things together and show that they've got equal importance and that they're all integrated. This is a brief example that is unfinished at the moment, but I might then go to a page which has a diagram on it. I might go to a page which has a hyperlink in it. Now this is an example of a hyperlink which I've made into a diagram, an icon, an image is a better word. And this is a hyperlink now. So if a student clicks this, it will take them to another resource online where the task is to skim read the resource, and then I'm going to try and get them to answer some questions on it. I think all of these pages, they should have images. If you want people to go and do something, or if you want them to look at slides, it should be embedded so that it looks important. But yet they should also have words around them. So I've seen several pages where there's just a video, but I think they all need context in them. So most pages, the best pages, will all have text. They'll have some images. My images are centered, which I also think is more professional than having them left. Minor points, but it looks much better. We can also embed Google Forms, Microsoft Forms. What we've got on the next page, I've got some Google Slides embedded. So these are my old slides from last year, not prepared anything. They could be slightly bigger, but those are slides. I could have questions below to say, look at these slides, answer these questions. I could have a Google form below, review the slides, answer the questions. I could embed a Panopto screencast or any other type of screencast. I could embed YouTube videos that I've found online, but I've curated, and I might have written things for people to look out for underneath, or I might have a form. So watch the video, answer these questions in the form below. I've got a recommended chapter with a link to the library there. So that's just a snapshot of some of the content that we can have. But what I wanted to get across was the importance of how it's presented, and the combination of text which narrates the curation. It narrates the thing that we've developed for the students. The next thing that I've included, and this is where we draw back to the previous link, is what I wanted a place where students can engage and be tested slightly, but have to engage with the content and then get a chance to reflect on that content, but also where they can submit applied interpretations of the work. So paragraphs where they might have to write a little bit, but also I want to have an opportunity where they can feed back, and then all of this information can feed in to the tutorials, possibly the next week or during the week. So what I've got here is a GIF I found online, and it's got a hyperlink, which is the same hyperlink that goes here, and I'll click it, or either the picture. I need to go to student view, and what the students will see is, bear with me, to apologize. There we go. What the students will see then. So this is the other link that was in the top page. This is a feedback. Now there are several options. I think there's an essay, there's a multiple choice. At the moment, I like the look of this feedback. I need to check to see whether it gets submitted. I want feedback which is submitted in a way where I can go to the back end of Learning Space and I can see a list of all my students on the module, and I can see who's done the task. So I'm yet to check this one out, but the idea is that I use one of these embedded Learning Space tools, and I've linked it. I've put a hyperlink in the book, and then it will take them. It takes them to another page, but it's opened another window. But this feels like it's all within the same thing. So on this one, I've got multiple choice questions. They were really easy to make. Then I've got a question about applied knowledge. You take this knowledge that I've given you, and can you think about the implications of using it in a different area? But then I've got a question at the bottom: what did you not understand in this week's content? So there's three different types of content that we can use, and I'm sure colleagues can think of other ways of using this, but the idea that there is an expectation of students to engage with this content, engage with practicals. This could come after the practical, it could come before the practical. I can decide how to use it in different ways, but the expectation is that the students engage with something. They input on here, I can track that in an administrative way, but I can also go in and look at their feedback and then use that feedback in a tutorial as well. So this page now is actually this link here. What I did was I went in and I right-clicked and I took the copy link address, and then I went back into my book and I used that as the hyperlink within my book. So I could make this invisible to students, or I'm starting to think that it's good that it's there, because when a student goes into this block, they can see that's what we're doing. I might put reference to the practicals in the top, but they're in the book. I want students to go in the book, but I also want them to realize that there's a task for them to do, and they could access it that way as well. So I'm yet to work out what's best there, but that's a book, and I hope you find that useful.